right? But that's the reality.
The other part of the model, too, is what you've been reading about on the revised broadband grant, about some of these technical things.
Potential for telemedicine that one of these ago.
You know, telemedicine, being able to keep folks in their home that way. If the state finally comes through, you know, we're going to have 6 paramedics in town, where the state allows paramedicine, that firefighters can go out and administer shots and, you know, get reimbursed through Medicare or whatever, however reimbursement. So their model hasn't changed.
Get everything around it.
You know, so the big grant they got, they've got $17,000 left. They had to hire a consultant for $8,000.
Hey, want to give me that gavel
What
behind you
they
there?
do, they've got about
That I can use your head.
$14,000.
That'll be the last time, though, right?
You don't want. So I thought she was.
I'll just do it once.
She didn't explain. You know, if she'd come in and say, look, we're having some difficulties.
Yes, Mike,
If you could
Jim's up
leave us a
there.
placeholder, I'm ready to be there for a couple more months.
Jeff's not there, but
Until
Jim's in the back.
we get the results back from the consultant, then.
The microphone's going
That
up.
wasn't. She did it, and you stood up fine. So I just, that's enough.
Especially around
I was
this.
totally embarrassed with
I don't want to get carried away
what
with
she
it.
did, so just cut my
You break when we get a
Yeah,
backup plan.
All right, so to
You
speak.
gentlemen ready over there?
Yes. So now you know the rest of the
I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council budget meeting for Thursday, April 19th, 2018. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mark Eastman.
Here?
Paul Rad.
Here.
David P. absent. David Keane.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Goddard absent. Ron McCullough.
Here.
Okay, going on to item 3 in the budget workshop meeting here is recreation budget.
This year's recreation budget, we have Peter Farragher and Nick Mosco here from the Y to talk about their proposal, which is included in the information that's in the packet behind the budget. And this budget incorporates all of the items that were in that Y proposal to us, the one that's this front page does. The only thing that, and I think there's $3,450 or something close to that, that was an item that was related to if the splash pad were to go forward, and that wouldn't be going forward in this year's, so that would be a reduction that would be made in that. But they can explain what their program plans. The remainder of the budget in recreation includes, it says part-time assistants. That's not what it is. That position is Barb Ames' position, who does the diversion program that we have a grant paid for, and is contracted to the school doing social work. So while we have her as an employee, the school reimburses and diversion reimburses for the cost of that employee. And we did that because, and when we made the change to the Y, not to cost a job, but to find revenue streams to cover that source by contracting that employee, and that's what we're doing.
So in that, the total Y contract, that is that
122,656.
that doesn't include the total this social worker.
No, that
Okay.
that 40,028 underneath is the
That's that one. Okay, that goes to
diversion
the-
grant
Okay.
social worker item. That's what that is. Because we own some of these facilities, most of them anyway. There is money in here for some maintenance for building and facilities, and there's also there's the senior citizens director, Soanne Craig, her salaries at senior citizens director, that is on line 2, and the rent expense item on line 91 is the amount that you pay to annually to the owners of the property where the senior center is located. That's our monthly
So
rental.
the extra money that we gave to the senior citizen group last year to help pay for her, that was last week under a separate line. Why is that?
No, that 2,500, that's for seniors' activities only. In this budget, we pay her salary and the senior center rent,
But I thought they asked to have more money so she could have more hours. Or
no, she was going to give up some of her hours so that they could have money available to do more activities.
Okay.
But that would have come out of this budget, not out of the senior citizens had, prior to this, requested money from the council, and that's what that line item was, that 2,500.
I thought it was 5,500.
It was 25. It went to 5,500 last
Right.
in this year's budget
Okay.
because
But that's not salary.
no,
Okay.
that's just programs that they do. But that's what that is. And then the youth athletic expense line item are funds that the town appropriates that are distributed to some of these travel teams that operate outside of the town's recreational oversight, but provide programming and opportunity in sports and all those kind of things. And so as requested, and they make requests to recreation, they can get some, it's things like tournament fees, those kind of things are monies that they apply for, but that's what that line item is. Water is the pool, electricity is all the costs of all the recreational sites. But as I said, Peter and Nick are here to explain the proposal to you so you can understand what the increase from last year's appropriation would cover and what they hope to do.
Good evening, folks. Evening. Speaking on behalf of the Y, I just want to thank the council and town manager for the opportunity of having this partnership. I think it's kind of working. We're coming to our first anniversary. We're excited about what was happening last year and the opportunities that we see for the upcoming year. But Nick's going to really give you some detail and some vision of what we think the impact can be. And so I'll be quiet and I'll give it to our boy Nick. All right? Nick.
It's just some marketing material that we have at campus coming up. I too would like to thank the council for an excellent first year. It's been a lot of fun. The spirit of collaboration in Bucksport is sky high, and that means getting things done that really have an impact has become easier. And I think that the Y has been a conduit of that, but I think that folks are open to it right now. So it's been a lot of fun. I just want to go over briefly a list of accomplishments. First of all, we added a full-scale summer day camp. We added summer and after-school enrichment in the arts. We've identified rec assets and evaluated need for improvement and replacement. We've provided several free-to-the-community events such as barbecues, holiday fairs, various celebrations. We've provided low-cost enrollment with scholarships available for enrichment and youth sports activities. We've updated the fitness center with your help. Thank you very much for that. It's looking fantastic. And last month we had 353 logins, and currently we have 97 members, which is, for this time of year, really good for a town this size. We've been collaborating with several local organizations such as Heart and Soul, Great Pond Land Trust, the Health Center, Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities, RSU 25, and many more. Some of the things we want to continue to do is maximize recreation opportunities. We're going to continue to screen and recruit quality volunteers. We want to fill programming voids, and we've been doing that with the help of our advisory committee, who we work with once a month to identify what those gaps are. And a big one we're working on right now with the high school, their leadership team, is we're developing a teen leadership academy with RSU 25, It's something we're really excited about, and we're talking about using our campus at Webb Pond through the Down East Family Y. It's going to be student-driven. It's going to be something that they own, and I think that ownership is going to allow it to be successful and breathe a little bit. So I want to talk briefly about the proposal and what you'll gain, and then open it up to any questions you might have. With the increased investment, we'd like to run a free drop-in program for middle school age students, and this would be something that was semi-supervised and also took advantage of the late bus that RSU 25 offers. Most of this investment would go towards staffing. The staff member would be able to assist with after-school intramurals, youth sports. It'd be primarily a late afternoon position, and perhaps some weekend responsibilities. So it may be two separate individuals.
Do you have a number on that you'd be maxed out at?
20,000.
No. Kids.
Kids, yeah, we have a ratio. I think it's 1 to 25 at that age. Is that correct? Yeah, 25. And this would really kind of take advantage of some of that data that Healthy Acadia made available recently. They talked about Hancock County in comparison with the state with middle school drug use, and we were actually fairly average. But one of the points was one of the only research-driven ways to tackle the epidemic is to program these individuals and give them a space to be with some positive mentors, and that's what we aim to set them up with. Another thing that we'd like to add with the increased investment would be some more opportunity with the ice rink during the winter months. Perhaps this individual would be someone in the community with a handicap. I think this would be a good position to offer someone in that boat. And this would be something that really kind of blew open opportunities for trail use, maybe extending hours, maybe doing some more leagues associated with hockey and ice skating. So we're going to continue to really try to push the facilities and make them 4 seasons.
Nick, on the ice rink, I know you had to, with help, had to go up at all hours to make sure the lights were shut off. Did you look into the automatic?
Jerry Harriman donated time and an automatic light.
So that is in place now.
Absolutely.
Good. And the other, just more of a comment about the drop-in program. That was mentioned a number of times from citizen input through Heart and Soul, through the listening sessions, and some of the things that they had hoped for in the community. So that kind of fits well with that.
Absolutely.
Where is the pool repair coming out of? Which
The pool repair will come out of the reserve.
account?
Yep.
So that's not included in this,
No.
correct? Yeah.
Have you got a schedule yet on the pool repair, when they might start?
No, and I believe that I know Warbell's Construction has been informed that we've given them the go-ahead, but we don't have a timeline. I'd be happy to find out that
Yeah,
information.
just in
for you.
case something else goes wrong, we're not waiting until August to...
Finish it
Oh,
up.
absolutely. I think they want to scope it as well, even though it's been scoped by Mike's Pool.
Yeah.
I think they want to get in there and check it out.
Have we talked with the water company about a one-time fill this year?
No, we
Was
haven't.
that a one-shot deal? Well, we ought to have that...
I'm happy to ask again.
We ought to ask that question.
We got it last year,
Yeah.
so I would think that.
They increased
Just
our
to,
fee.
just to support their community.
What do you foresee for the number of people that you'd hire under this? Is it a one-person gig, or is it a couple to spread out over? Or?
If we have a good response to this, which I believe we will, because it's already happening organically, since the Y's been there, we've had a lot of folks from the middle school and high school come to the Jewett School after school and use that space. It's been really cool to see that. So I think structuring it a little bit and inviting more people in, we're going to see those numbers. So we're going to see, I believe, a 5-day-a-week program We'd also like to have some folks that could help out on the weekends. So this is going to be at least 2 people.
Is that where it's part-time, is that pulling from like a teacher or something like that? Is that only fills these
Yeah, that's who
positions?
we'd want to tap. It would be kind of the same idea as the folks that coach in
Yeah.
the community.
Same idea?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have meals on the weekends now for kids?
No,
Lunch.
I don't think Mr. Boothby's doing that.
Okay. Just in the summer then, is the meals?
Yep.
thing?
Yeah, and that's 5 days a week.
Okay. And who does that?
RSU 25
Oh, I
in
do.
partnership with, I'm not sure.
A bunch of initials.
Yeah, it's a state program.
It's part of the RSU's summer program to provide those meals, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea, maybe you've given us a report, I've lost it, just the number of kids that were impacted? How many kids, whether they were one-offs or multiple programs, how many kids you think you dealt with?
That we served in total over the last year, that's a tough number.
Okay.
I could pull individual programs for you. For example, my indoor soccer, which we just added, we served 67 kids.
67.
And that was a brand new program. So there's been a lot of examples of that.
I think, and I think people like to be able to see like a lot of things we have. What's the bang that we're getting? So how many kids are we servicing at different age brackets? And again, if it's one kid doing 16 programs, that's great. But I'd count that kid as a one each time.
Absolutely, yeah.
and
You see
figure
the
out-
return on the
Yeah,
investment.
Yeah. So if that's something you can, in your time, if you can find some way just to kind of maybe give us numbers of programs, like you did just to do with the soccer thing.
I can do that really easily,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And I can do that
Shoot-
by
shoot an email or something.
midweek
Yeah.
next week.
I'd like to see that. That'd be awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks.
It might give you an idea too, if we're missing a certain age group in activities, that you might be able to create some additional activities for those particular age groups, if they're being missed.
I think that there's a group, and it's middle school. They're difficult to program for, and they're busy. Some of them are really sports specific, but some of them have lost interest and have kind of drifted away. And I think this program,
We can capture them again.
yeah, capture them, bring them back in. Then you can reintroduce them to programming or whatever it is.
That's a tough age.
It is.
But it's the right age to catch them too.
Totally. And it's got to be driven by them, and it can't be anything that we totally add too much structure for. It's got to be fairly organic, and it's kind of happening already. So.
In your opening overview, I missed the numbers, but you said you have 87 memberships and 300-plus users last month?
97 members, and that's it at $10 a month.
Yeah.
373 touches.
Yep. Yep.
Your point about data is a great one, it's real important. And what we're planning for the summer at the pool is to utilize our computer program, which is, we'll be able to log in every usage, which will give us, when the kids show up, people, what town they're from, their age. And so we're going to really have a significant database to be able to track usage of our.
And that's what I was thinking about last week, or when I got thinking about it again with the pool. I mean, the family comes to the pool, and are they going to go buy a clam basket, buy a book, go get an ice cream? What's that other benefit that they're going to do when they're here? And if we have something for them to draw them here, I think that's, again, hopefully they stick around and spend some money too.
And you'll see it in year 2. Our goal is really to get that data so that we can start analyzing and, like you said, find out where those gaps are. In year 1, I think he's done a superb job on filling some gaps and getting it going, but we've got a lot of work to do.
I guess coming back to you, is your board happy? Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jim Boothby now is on the board, and we're all happy, and we kind of like him,
Yeah. So do we.
I know. It's been a good match, and so we're really excited about the possibilities, and when when you get the Y, you get an organization, a bunch of people that are all working together, you get a common good.
That's a real question in the back there.
What you identified the middle school as a gap that you have to try to fill.
Yes.
Do you have any proposals that might at this present time?
The after-school drop-in program, I believe, would recapture a lot of those folks.
Do you think that's gonna bring them in?
I do, and it's not structure that we're shoving down their throat. You know, it's something that they're coming in, they're hanging out with us, they've got a positive mentor there, and they can sign themselves right out. So we're pulling them out of, maybe they're coming to us because they want to avoid a negative environment at home. We've got a safe place for them to go.
What activities are gonna take place in that?
Oh, basketball, you know, floor hockey, you name it. It would primarily be activity-driven, physical activity-driven, but you'd also have that quiet reading space. You'd have homework help available from whoever we hire as a staff person. So it would look like whatever it needed to look like for the kids that were doing it.
You know, thumb therapy, because they're gonna wanna sit there.
There might be a little bit of that, yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, I guess I'm looking at what kids do.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
With the goal of having them slide into that fitness room, you know, and some healthy exercising and all those things.
I do.
I'd like to, we're trying to enhance our public transportation system, thanks to your wife. It would be nice if, I think, Jimmy, you mentioned a long time ago that, you know, a lot of the kids out back in the summertime don't have access to come in and use some of the facilities.
Yeah.
Maybe we could try to work something out with one day a week or something like that. There's a short bus run to go out and kind of set schedule, go out and pick up kids and bring them to the rec center or whatever.
My point in that was to move recreation closer to the people instead of them having to rely on a scheduled time that they could go.
Yeah.
If they had something there closer to them, they could use it at their leisure. I thought that
Yeah.
might be an answer.
Yeah.
It turned into a bus schedule.
I think that's why you program it right after school. You already got them there in town, and then take advantage of the late bus that Jim's already running. You can send them home afterwards. Grab them while they're already in town. Hey, I'm glad you brought up transportation. I neglected to say we're working on once a week grabbing a bunch of seniors and taking those folks up to the Downey's Family Y and taking advantage of group aquatics. Aqua Fitness. Yeah, Aqua Fitness. We're going to try to kick that off pretty soon here.
I like I'm anxious to learn more about the leadership academy. That you projected that for the summer or during the school year?
We're moving into our second formal meeting on the subject next week, and I think that we'd identify the kids before the end of the school year, do some trainings late in the summer, and then unroll it officially at the start of the 2018-2019 school year.
Okay.
When you get ready, talk to me, because I got some pretty good mentors that about 20 miles down the road that may help in that program too.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
Any other questions on the recreation budget?
Thanks, Nick. Great job.
This is just a suggestion. The gymnasium floor at middle school, I believe, is in a state of disrepair, I think for the second time since it was built, or maybe more, I'm not sure. But they've said that it's going to be in the $400,000 range to repair that floor, to get it so that it's correctly repaired. How much difference would it be to bulldoze it out of there and put an indoor pool in there, instead of putting a bunch of money into an outdoor splash pad, put it into a pool and give them, instead of 11 weeks or 3 months or whatever, give them year-round access to water here in Bucksport.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to go on to town dock and waterfront budget.
hey Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, the town dock waterfront Main Street, what this budget does is, this is the care of these areas. The salaries for the people who maintain these facilities, and the utilities cost for the operation of them. The waterfront, this account and the marina account, Rich Rotella, our Economic and Community Development Director, is the department head for these, along with Economic Development. And he's here this evening. And Mike Ormsby is our Marina Manager, Harbor Master, who has more information on specifics in the marina budget. But these costs used to be in Public Works and in several other places. And we put the cost of maintaining the Main Street issues, the walkway, and the dock into this one budget. And that's what you see here. So this budget is really a maintenance budget for those areas. And Rich added a couple of line items to this budget this year. Rich, if you'd like to.
Good evening. When I first took over with the waterfront, I had, and Tim retired. There was a time in between because Tim managed both. So he had line items where he could have building maintenance and repairs, purchase of small equipment like lawnmowers and weed whackers. And program support was what it was called, so that we could shock the water wheel, that pond down there, so that needs algicide and shock. So everything you see here, I simply asked for what we had used from that budget just to get it out of that and to put it under this. Because this year I'm running $2,900 short because I didn't have any money for it. So I'm pulling it out of the year to make it work for this year. But it's really important that we can have those equipment. There was the only, we decreased electricity because I believe of the 9 that would, with the solar panels, we're going to see an impact on the electricity and we also went to LED lights, so we'll see a savings in that on the waterfront. So even though it looks like more than before, it really isn't. It came from somewhere else.
When you look at what's been spent in 27-18, and tell me when the money gets spent, but we only spent a third of the last year's budget, but yet we're asking for $7,000 more in this year.
We are just starting right now. Remember, at the end of last year's budget, you're dealing with July, August, and September. The bulk of our work comes in April, May, and June.
That's the right answer. Thank you.
Yes. I've also got 3 people this year versus 2. I have 2 part-timers and a full-timer. We really need to tackle the work. We got behind last year, but we're going to make it up this year.
What's the, go ahead.
The flowers for all the road signs doesn't come out of this budget.
Comes out of economic development budget.
Oh, it does? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I know there have been issues in the past with the bathrooms down there. Is that those taken care of? Is that what?
That's what building maintenance and
Is that
repair is.
what $1,200 is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't have anything for it this year, and we had close to $1,200.
Okay.
So I pulled it out of that account.
Speaking of that, is there that restroom on this end, the part of the building, is that only open seasonal?
It is it's a heated bathroom, but we don't have winter service. Ronnie's only here 1 day a week, and typically it's one of the last places to get plowed because people don't need to be down there. So it was open once Ronnie started back up, which was April 1st, and that'll stay open Ronnie's first day till Ronnie's last day, and that's typically mid-October. These don't open until the weather cooperates. That's heated, that's not. So those won't open until May. And they close last week in September.
Any further questions on this issue? Okay, we'll go
Thank
on
you.
to the marina budget.
technical, but
The marina budget, if you remember, is our enterprise budget. It is not a taxation budget. It's a budget that is derived from fees related to persons who use the marina, buy gas at the marina, buy things that we sell in the store at the marina, etc. But it doesn't contain property tax dollars. That's the way you set it up when you bought it in 2014, and that's the way we've continued to operate it. The accumulated balance in the enterprise end of this, meaning how much money since 2014 has been where revenues have exceeded expenditures, is $123,000. That's how much in that 3 year through the end of 2017, how much you had collected in fees more than you had in expenses. And we've done that by having part-time and stipend employees and employed, and we're still doing that. Mike is full-time part of the year and part-time part of the year in his position as marina manager. That his wages are included in here. The department head stipend for Rich, which we put in here to allocate the cost of the department head on this enterprise account out of this budget. And then there are employees that work at the marina during the summer that are also in this budget. As you go down through, much of the first page at least is employee-related costs, and then it goes down through there's an item on the next page that's higher that's called software support, and Mike could explain a change that we're going to be making in terms of how we keep track of where the boats are and who's using the spaces.
That's item 32, the software support. We've raised that 400% over last year. And the reason we did is it's a monthly fee that starts out for the first year for a program called Scribble. And I noticed last year while we were making reservations for people, we were writing them down in a book. And then, of course, the marina people down there are really cooperative with the town. They want the town to make money at the marina. So when they leave for 2 weeks out of their own slip that they have rented for the season, most of them will say, hey, I'm gone for 2 weeks, rent my slip if you can, which is really great because it allows the town to make more money on that slip than the whole season. So, but it's really hard to keep track of. So if they tell me they're going to be gone for this 2 weeks in August, let's say August 19th or whatever, and I get a call that the guy needs a reservation on August 19th, we get a book and things get all scribbled in and crossed out and moved around, and it's almost impossible to find the available slips. So you kind of guess, yeah, I'm going to have a slip, because we always have the overflow on the big town dock, and we usually go over there if we have to, unless of course there's a cruise ship in there at the time. So this program, you can put all that information in there as you get it or gain it, and it actually has a drawing on the program itself with colored. The slips are all colored. What's available, what isn't available, how much each slip should bring in, and everything else. So if you punch in that date and you're looking for a slip, it pops right up what slips are going to be available that date. So then you put the reservation in there, and then the slip is no longer available. It's reserved. And if they cancel, you just take it out. It's just a nice way of keeping track. because I had more pieces of paper with crossed out things on it all over the place, and it gets a little difficult, so.
Well, the efficiency alone is just going to be worth the cost of what.
Well, I think so, yeah. The program really is meant for a one-time program, and the fee for that program is not in the budget. It's something we're going to try to, do the monies for outside of that. But the fee to keep the program going for the first year is. That's why that extra cost. And it's about $100 a month. And that's to start it off, but I was told by the salespeople that after we've used it a year, we probably don't need that assistance, and we can just, it's a standalone thing on the software, so it should be. So that was that increase.
One of the other things I saw in here, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but why are we paying credit card fees? Why don't we pass that on to the consumer?
Well,
We don't show it as where do we show it as a revenue, though? We don't. We've got $1,000 as an expense, but I don't see where it's coming in as a revenue.
Towns do that, and as far as the town goes here, but it's generally not done in business. It's just an expense of doing business, basically.
Right, you'll drive people away if you start
Because
charging
this
a
is
credit card.
the enterprise part of it, for taxes and all of that, it is, so that tax dollars aren't used
Okay.
to pay
I'm just
people's credit
asking
card
because
fees.
It
But
does
yeah,
upset
no,
people when you say, oh, I got to add on, your card is at 3%, I got to add on 3% or whatever else, and they think they could get it cheaper somewhere else or whatever, but it's just a cost of doing business, basically. It's part of your expense, so.
And my comment had nothing to do with me being a banker. I promise.
No, with that expense, again, it's entirely the difference between treating this.
Because as a town, we charge a fee.
Absolutely
Right.
do. So
Right.
that.
I guess that's why I was wondering, why is the town, but it's a separate,
It's this enterprise account doesn't involve tax dollars, it's entirely driven by the fees paid, so
so
that,
keep them happy and we don't charge the fee.
well, it's a different, people say towns should act more like businesses, and this is
Well, here you
an
go.
area.
And I don't disagree, I was just wondering why we
Yeah.
charge as the town and why
That's
we
fine.
don't
It's
do
a
it
good
there,
question.
so, yeah.
No, it's fine. Because a lot of those credit card expenses are gasoline. People pay, you put $500 worth of gas in your boat, and, they do it with a credit card, so.
I think there's 99% of people
You
probably
could
doing it
turn
around here.
the other way. You could do what big companies do if you could manage it and say if you pay with
Cash,
cash,
you
we'll
get
give you
cheap,
5 cents off the gas. But
Yeah, we do
Probably.
give discounts too. We give a discount on gasoline to all the marina boaters that have a slip. They get a 10 cents discount.
Is that incorporated in the $290 that we're figuring as a revenue, or is that?
That will change. That changes every delivery. Every delivery I take with gas.
So we're not locked into a price then?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we're locked into a purchase price as a percent over rack price.
Okay.
So every time I get a new delivery, I have to figure in the amount of gallons that I got and everything else, what was left in the tank, and then I do a figure to how much profit we should make, and then I change the price. The marina boaters all know when every time we get a delivery, there's going to be change in price.
Something's going to change, yeah.
Right.
Like they do here on Main Street.
Right, exactly. And hopefully it's going to go down, because it's getting up there to where I put these figures
Right.
now.
Right.
So I'm hoping it will go down a little bit come things get straightened out down the road here,
Okay.
And but yeah, gasoline is a it's a revenue maker, and no matter you look at it at the budget, oh, it's a lot of budget. It's not, because whatever you put in there for the budget, you're going to get more back in
Well,
revenue.
I mean, you got like a 40-cent markup that we're making on
Right.
per gallon, so.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So it's and we're the lowest around.
But it's still competitive.
Yeah.
We
We're
can
very
do that.
competitive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
We
would
were
have gone
probably the
50 cents a
lowest
gallon.
most of the season last year. In fact, there was a time when the gasoline prices were going up a little bit last summer, and we weren't selling as quickly as the gas stations down at the corner, and our prices were actually the same as down at the gas station. The voters have never seen that before,
Yeah.
so it worked out pretty good.
Where, as we took a tour down there last year, you're doing a great job, but we talked about adding some extra spaces. Where is that?
That's going to be the four, we talked about adding 4 spaces at the end of C-Dock this year, and adding 4 spaces at the end of B-Dock next year as a phased way to build some additional capacity. And the costs of those additional slips would come out of the reserve that's
The
here.
city,
Not,
yeah.
this is not the, this is the operating budget,
Mhm.
but those are, the plan is for those to be available this summer.
So that's still happening then?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason we didn't do over the winter is because I really need to set the docks out and get some more measurements. We have a low spot out there, and I'm debating on whether to go with a 2-slip addition to a 4-slip addition, depending on how close we are to that low spot. And that's that, right up in the middle of right in front of the marina, there's a drop-off of silt there, because we have
Where it circles
an eddy
around,
there, and it always drops silt there all the time. And at low tide, I can stand up out there. So with some of these big boats we got in here, we don't want them running aground, or especially on the end. But just adding 2 on, you're talking almost $5,000 in added income. Adding 4 on, you're talking close to 10. And then you go over to B dock, and it's not as much, but everyone you add on buys fuel too. So I mean, it's not just that.
Right.
It's all adding additional revenue to the marina. And I figured it's better to go a little slow, take it a step at a time, and see how it goes. I have a waiting list on the
I was gonna say, are you
40
full?
boats. Yes. On the 40-foot boats, I have a waiting list for slips. So once we get that in there, I'm pretty sure we'll fill them. B dock, which is the 30-footers, so far it looks like that's going to be full up too. And the 20-footers last year, at the end of the year, we had a lot of people that come in and wanted to try it out, and we gave them a little bit of a discount to come in for a month or a month and a half, and they did, and most of them are coming back, so for the whole season.
Yep.
So it was a good selling point, and. But I mean, I have a lot of cooperation down there. I have people that are in the 40-foot slips. I have one guy he's got a 31-foot boat. He wanted a 40-foot slip because it was bigger.
Just some room?
Yeah, but he said, geez, if you can rent the 40-foot slip, that's so much more money. He says, I can take the less money and go over to the B dock, and I'll be happy over there. And so we're having people doing that. So there's a lot of cooperation down there, which is really nice.
Is that, what you just mentioned about the slips, is that what's driving the extra revenue projections for this year? I just wonder, are you getting a lot of interest? Is that your gas sales are up, I think, 10,000 projected?
Yeah, the gas sales have risen every year since we bought the marina. Originally, the owners of the marina before we bought it they really had the price up there, and so they didn't get any extra sales. In fact, we had people down at the marina that were bringing their boats over to the town dock and fueling it out of the back of a truck, because they just didn't want to pay the money. And where we got the price down, so it makes that not wanted doable. They don't want to do that, so they buy it from us, and every year they've gone up. So we're around 13,000 gallons right now on gasoline, and hopefully that will even rise more as the time goes on. But we have more and more boats that are diesel, and that's coming in and this is part of a project. I have a company right now giving us a price on installing a diesel fuel tank directly next to the gasoline fuel tank. It'll look almost exactly the same. It'll be a rectangle tank on a pad, and it will pipe into the same pump. They're going to replace a pump that I think was pumping Model T cars back in whenever. And it will replace that pump with a gas on one side and a diesel on the other. And it will also give us an electronic down on the dock, so we actually know what we're pumping, because right now we don't. We turn on all the pumps and open all the valves, go down, and for just one of us there, we pump the gas in the boat, and it's a surprise when it's all said and done. The owner comes up, well, how much was it? So at least we'll be able to tell down there. If they can say, oh, I want 30 gallons, we'll be able to put in 30 gallons without having somebody up there hollering down, okay, stop, so. But
Is that happening this year, you
We'll
think?
hope so.
We
Because that's crazy too.
met with a representative from MDOT today who operates the SHIP program and the BIG program, which are grant programs. And he indicated that they had just funded a project like this and would fund this one. So we're waiting for GAFTEC so that we can submit an application to have that funded through a SHIP grant for this year to add diesel. And this year, the this year is 2 4-slips, whichever. The addition of diesel, planning that allows for the application of for a major grant to replace the town dock, add 60 feet to it, and have it be a year-round installation, meaning that it doesn't need to come out. It's a large amount of money, but the Tier 2 grants through the big program, we were encouraged today to apply in this year because they haven't seen any other large applications. And so we're getting cost estimate engineering-wise for that. There's also shoreside work that needs to be done to stabilize the approach to the town dock, and some of that's going to be, you saw all this when you did your inspection. That's going to get done separate from making the...
That's being done now. Even though the docks will be in before we actually tear that off, we'll have to work around it, basically, and make a way for people to get down there and back until the,
Yeah, because I remember you said that was probably one of the neediest projects.
It was, yep. And we have engineering, John DeWitt is doing the engineering. He's been up here several times already. He's going to give us 2 prices in 2 programs that we can pick from. One will be putting in a certain type of retaining wall. We also have the tar and the gravel underwash there and being undermined and falling apart. And the idea with that is if the retaining wall is going to be more expensive. So we can also do it with granite instead of the blacktop curbing, which really doesn't hold up. So we can also do it with the last 16 feet out there with granite, and that will be less expensive. So he's going to give us both options so we can figure out what we want to do. And we plan on doing that pier repair this year. And it also is going to sleeve the existing pilings on the east side because they're getting beat up by the ice flowing down. And they're getting cut, when the ice hits them, it cuts the pilings. So we're going to put either some sacrificing wood on there, or we're going to sleeve the whole thing when the dock's off with the fiberglass sleeves or something like that to maintain those pilings. Because they're still in good shape. The project that Sue was telling you about was replacing the floats out front, and that won't happen this year. But that will be with heavy concrete floats that are made by SF Marinas, and they're built down in Virginia. The Coast Guard has bought them all. They got them up at Southwest Harbor. They got a whole breakwater built down in Portland out of them, and they're really rugged. And I'm told they last for decades. So once they're in, and you don't have to haul them in and out. And that will save us a couple of $1,000 at least with the crane issue right over there, and save us from having to build new floats. Those floats are rebuilt every few years, and the town garage has been doing it. I think they usually try to do 3. This year they didn't build any, they just repaired some. So that's what that project is, and that will keep a year-round system out there for us. The Coast Guard has given me an idea of interest that they might even lease part of the docks when they do the ice breaking, so they can actually stay on a dock right in town, so they could go and because they stay here for 4 or 5 days at a time when they're up here with the 2 tugboats. So
When is that grant supposed to be awarded?
The Tier 2 grant is due in September, and it's a competitive grant, and it requires a lot of input, but from what we were told today, there were 2 awarded in Maine last year. One was to Port Harbor Marine in Portland, and the other one was to Rockland. And that there's nothing out there right now from here looking for that money, and that there's a lot of interest in Bucksport because Bucksport is doing a lot of interesting things.
So we would know sometime later in the
We would know
fall.
later in the year, and it would be for the fall, or the 2019 year.
And the guy from DOT is very favorable to Bucksport because it used to be his stomping grounds when he went to the Maine Maritime Academy. So, you know, he acted real receptive to all of our projects. So.
Yeah, we had talked about the Northern Region Border Commission grant, and he said that, you know, that's one, and you can, but he said this tier 2 has you don't have to, the town doesn't have to contribute as much to that one as it does the other one, and the number can be higher.
Yeah, it's a 75-25
Yeah.
for that.
And the other
It's
one is a
50-50 on
50-50.
the others. Yeah. There's a lot of projects that we're looking at to do, and that's just the beginning. There's a bunch of others too. So a little at a time, I guess. You can't do it all at once, but we're also planning on rebuilding some of the slips themselves. Some of the 40-footers, they're 18 years old. You get out on the end of them and you rock like this.
Got the twisty ones there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes back and forth. I guess see some of the older gentlemen and ladies that get off their boats. And, I get really nervous sometimes because they are pretty rocky. So it would be nice to replace them, you know, and we're talking about doing that one at a time up towards the middle end of the marina area, and we can build them right outside, you know, and just, we can take the floats off an old one, put it on a new one, you know, and just put all new wood in and all new bolts and screws, and they'll be a lot tighter, and they won't have that, so much of that rocking motion anyway.
So those are, thank you, Mike. The idea is to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah, don't go. Is that there's, I think, a really cooperative attitude. Rich and Mike and Ron, and you know, the waterfront is I think it's done well since you acquired it, and I think with a slow and steady approach, rather than that you'll grow into things as it progresses, and it will bring in more transit. You know, adding diesel will bring in. Our boaters won't have to go someplace else to get.
That's a real pain for them, yeah, it is. She is a diesel boat.
That's not entirely why we're doing it, but. I'm
And
not
there's
the only one.
nothing new. I know the cost was prohibitive, the whole thing about the landing over there and trying to put fingers or whatever in. Has there been anything new, or is that pretty much dead
Want me to
because of the
explain
cost?
that, or- When we get, if we get the new docks, the new floats for the main docks, we're gonna have 320 feet of dock, okay? My idea is to take part of that and negotiate with the state and go over there with a bulldozer and push the rocks back and lay one of those out right there and anchor it on the end, so people will have a place to get on and off their boats when they launch them, which is, I mean, that ramp will be used 10 times more than it's used because people are afraid of the current. And rightfully so. If they're not out there using their boats all the time, it's difficult, you know. So with a float out there, they wouldn't have any problem. They would just be able to get on and off their boats and launch them and bring them in and actually tie the boat up instead of beaching it to go up and get their trailer. And in the fall, wait for a high tide and put a loader on it and just drag it right out. And it's out in the spring with a loader, push it right in. So it'll stay right over there, you know. Of course, when it needs repairs, we'll have to do something, or maybe the state will even do something since they own it. So, but it really would help the whole area. It'll help Bucksport, it'll help the whole area. Because the more people that launch over there, I know people that go down to Stockton to launch because they're afraid of this ramp over here. And if they launch here, they're going to buy gas here, they're going to do everything here. So it's better for us.
I think that's what we heard during some of those meetings from the people,
It
particularly
is,
that came
but
from
we
out of
hadn't,
town.
until we thought about how, because the state won't do anything, they won't spend money to do, if we provide a solution that they don't have to spend money on that is workable, they will be more likely to be amenable to saying, we could try that. And
I really
that
think
would
so.
be-
I don't think they would complain about it, let's put it that way.
Good.
And that will help our whole harbor, you know, even though it's not in Bucksport, it's part of all our systems.
Have you got any summer employees from last year back?
Yes, I have Bill Gray,
Yeah.
and we gave him a pretty good raise this year because he's been at the same for a long time. And he is very capable and knowledgeable about all the systems down there. I feel very comfortable with him there by himself, and when he is, and there's no problems. So, and we put in for a 20-hour-a-week position that we'll interview for, and that is to cover weekends, to have a second person on, because that's where because most of our busy time is on the weekends. And it'd be nice to have two people on the weekends instead of one. And I worked a lot of weekends last year by myself, and it's doable. It's not, but then you have to tell people, well, I want to come in now. I'm gassing a boat. Can you hang off for a little while, and I'll be right over there. I'll let you know. And you know, we won't have to do that quite so much. So.
Yes, sir.
Question for either you or Rich, you know, about different discussions we had on the broadband grant and so forth, and secure Wi-Fi hotspots down at the marina. Is that something that waits to see if we get the grant, or
No, we're going to have to go with somebody like Spectrum and see if we can get a cable down there. The Wi-Fi doesn't work, and the
Okay.
voters can't work it. And even then, we're doing it through the school right now, and there's a lot, and we won't be able to keep doing that.
Can't do that
right?
anymore.
Right, right. And they have a lot of stuff restricted. Even mild stuff is restricted, so that, you know. So we'll try to get something worked out with Spectrum. I didn't change the cost in here, because it shouldn't cost us any more monthly than that. There might be a cost to put it in, because we have an underground service, and we got to drag a line through the underground service to get to the building. And so that, I don't know what that cost would be yet. So, but it shouldn't be any more than $900 a year to pay for it. And I think they're what, 100 megabytes a second now for their regular standard. So, and that would cover everybody, and it wouldn't be a problem.
We found out this week, that the school and the town can't share an internet connection the way that we have apparently since you started having internet, but the way that the school system is funded doesn't allow anyone to piggyback. And so Jim Morrill from RSU 25, who's doing our IT work at the moment, and videoing this show, actually, has reached out to Spectrum and GWI, because we have a GWI connection at the moment due to our phone systems. That's what powers that. To look at options, and is also looking at options to provide wireless service at the marina dock area, so that boaters and others down there have access to doing that. And the plan is for that to occur. That is one of the amenities that is provided for boaters. It just never worked very well.
That's been the biggest complaints from everybody at the marina is the Wi-Fi. They're down there, they're sitting on their boat, they want to hop on and, I don't know, check out Facebook or whatever. So, it just hasn't worked very well. So, we tried.
But he is getting more information. Rich, you weren't here today to talk to about that, but Jim is getting more information on cost to do that. He reached out to them today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ike.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 6, capital improvement budget.
of it. The capital improvement budget, first, I made a mistake in it. Nothing, confess first, that's my plan. When I put in the funding for it, I put $64,000 under the police equipment line item, and that number is correct for cruisers. That, however, does not include $10,000 that should have also been included for ballistic vests, bulletproof vests. The department has gotten a grant for $2,600, but that's not sufficient to replace vests for the officers or to have them for the reserves, which is necessary if we're going to employ people. So that proposed FY 2019 budget shouldn't say 64, and it doesn't on here. It says 74, and that's the reason. The other $10,000 is vests. There's appropriations requested in ambulance, the animal shelter, dispatch equipment, fire equipment, highway equipment, parking lots, police equipment, and public safety building, in adding funds to those accounts this year. And proposed expenditures would be cruisers, bulletproof vests, the public safety building, replacing the fence along the back wall. There's a chain link fence along the back wall of the public safety building that's prevents the people next door from falling down a 4-foot concrete thing. That it's a chain link fence and it's in really bad condition with homes, so we'd be replacing that. I put in $250,000 as the Broadway extension. It's a short period of piece of road. It's some of the work can be done by the town, but primarily that is utilities installation cost for that. And that because we anticipate that Mr. Wardwell will be doing the Park Street extension this year, and if he does before next year, we would have to do our share of the Broadway extension to meet that. Highway equipment in this year's budget is a 1-ton, a 3/4 ton pickup with a plow to replace what is a 2-wheel drive pickup, which has no. It's a taxi, but it can't do anything. It can't plow. It can't. It just drags people around. And that's the request. How articulate. But when we were talking about that, Jay indicated that it would be more useful to have a vehicle that could do work rather than just drag people around. And
Can I ask while we're on that, the 1-ton truck, how old is that? How many miles? How many hours?
The 1-ton we have now is a 2011, and it's between 80 and 90,000 miles on it. Not sure of the hours.
Don't worry about that.
It's at the point where we're starting to deal with rust, and we're starting to deal with.
Here's the only question I had. It seems when I got on the board a couple of years ago that we, like one of the fire department pickup truck, it was the case of the pickup body, so they replaced just the body and kept the other 2/3 of the truck. And I know one year we had instead of replacing a large plow truck, we had a good engine and a good frame, and we went with just a new body on the back. So you see where my question is heading.
I see where you're going. We've found in the past that at this point, with the age and the miles and the wear, if we continue on with it as a mainline vehicle, it deteriorates faster than it has from.
Well, the
then to
last
this
part of that
point.
was gonna be what the resale value would be another year from now if we
Right.
waited,
And
yeah.
if we were to keep it as a secondary and have this newer one come on as a primary, we would have we don't have enough vehicles to plow with now for the employees we have sometimes with the spares on in the winter that would give us a better opportunity to service downtown here where most of the complaints happen. So we
Okay.
That's the goal.
And the third, and those two would be, my proposal would be to do a 3-year package loan for the two of those together and spread that cost over a 3-year repayment. And the other item is the road edger that we talked about, which is the one that will build up the edges of the road that are now falling away from and starting to crack. And the town of Cumberland that has one of these for sale through a vendor has agreed that they'll bring it up and we can test drive it to see how it works and show people what it can do and why it would be. So Jay's finding the most high visibility bad shoulder area that we have, and that's where we're going to test this so people can see what it looks like if we have this machine that could do that work.
What are your plans, Jay, for the extra $80,000 you're going to have more than you have in the budget this year?
I know. So we have the loader payment and the truck payment that we have spread over the years, over a 5-year period, and so those additional payments add up to the difference in this. You see what I mean? But
Nope.
we have a truck that you bought this year that's a 3-year loan. That's a $40,000 payment. You have a loader that was a 3-year loan. That's a $30,000. The difference in appropriation is the committed cost of those borrowings for vehicles that we're buying over time.
Is that a one-time payment at the end of the year?
Yes, it's a once-a-year
So
payment.
that adds up to the 80?
And that's why some of the looks like you have a whole lot. We haven't made that, but the
So like the first number on highway is 39,000.
Yep.
And at the end of the number, it's 111,000.
Yep.
And we're expending 183. I guess I'm asking, where is that? Why do we have an extra 70,000 in there if we're already expending the 183 to make the payments? Because it says at the end of the, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but the estimated year-end balance is going to be 111,000. That's already taking into account the 183,000 that we're spending, correct?
right where at the end of 17-18 we anticipate we'll have 134,000. We're going to add in 160, spend 183, and 111 would be the balance. But the expenditures would be a third of those two trucks, the $24,000 road edger, and the payments on the vehicles that we purchased in prior years.
So what is the fund balance line, the first line? What is that
That
number?
is the balance as of that 42,917 was once in a year. That's the June 30th, 2017 balance in those
17
accounts.
balance.
Yes,
That's where I'm getting confused. Sorry.
I love computers. Anyway, if you set format and turn it into numbers, which this did, it turned my date, which was June 30th, 2017, into 42,900.
That helps me out with that number. Thank you.
That's what that is. You have that. You have our
That's
current
chasing
year
numbers.
budget, and then the
Yep.
18-19
No,
proposed.
that first number threw me off. So
Um,
what about the Chamber of Commerce building balance? We don't have that anymore. Where is that money going to end up?
Well, not only don't we don't have that, you're gonna have, my recommendation when you sold that building was to put that into the downtown improvements.
So that's where they'll slide into that reserve?
Would get fed into that. If you notice under 17, on the left side, you have the funds, you have your budget, then you have other revenues. Those other revenues are one is drug forfeiture money that came in, highway equipment, that's the things that we put out for sale, the equipment that we sold, we put that money back in there, because it had been sold out of there. Public safety building and town office. Recreation is the treadmills that we sold. All of the monies where we've sold equipment that was purchased out of these reserves, the monies have gone back into the reserves.
So couldn't we take some of that drug forfeiture money and buy vests with that?
And do what?
Buy vests?
You could, yeah.
I mean, that's what that money's for, correct? So I mean,
Yes.
we could zero that out every year. I mean, because it's there for equipment.
You could, but we've never done that because we've used it as a necessity if we needed something extra that we didn't budget for, rather than regular budgetary items every 5 years we have a CIP for.
Because you can't count on
You can't count on that money. You're not going to replace that money next year.
And I'm asking because, and maybe I haven't paid attention in the last 3 or 4 years, but it seems like your CIP is the lowest of anybody. I mean, do you just, why is that? Why?
Well, there was 1 year when the mill was closing, and I think Mr. Keene was the acting town manager, that there was no appropriation for a while, and we didn't buy a cruiser, so that, and I'm not blaming you at all, and everyone didn't appropriate any money, and it's always been very low. I mean, we don't appropriate $60,000, $70,000 a year like other departments, so it's been low, and then we didn't do it for a year, we never doubled up to catch up, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm getting at is, we've got $1.5 million here, and what are we thinking of spending that on down the road? Would we have a plan where this is going to go at some point? Because some of these numbers haven't changed for a couple of years, and the money's just been sitting there, right?
Some of these numbers may not have, other than adding interest, have changed in a long time. So your core, your
highway,
your
police, buildings,
police,
understand, absolutely.
buildings. Some of these, I think, and I don't know this, I wasn't here, were developed as a result of projects that you did. There's a Route 46 reserve.
That was my next one. I was wondering if I get a new driveway out of that.
Some, but for some, like waterfront, you might not spend it, but you need money in reserve for the fact that you have.
But do we need the amounts that we have? I guess.
Well, there are a number of these that could get consolidated or redistributed or whatever if you decided to eliminate those reserves.
Yeah, I look at recreation. We've got almost $200,000 between equipment and facility.
$335,000 total if you add up all the different.
Oh.
If you do,
Sorry.
you folks reserve for recreation in a big way over many years. We haven't reserved anything since I've been here for recreation, but you had accumulated. You used to accumulate
The thing is, we don't
money
own
into a reserve.
But we don't own the fields anymore. The
No,
school
the
does.
concession stand.
You own the
It's
field.
20,000.
We own the field.
I thought
They
this-
maintain them.
They maintain them. Well,
They
okay.
maintain
They maintain
them,
them. Yeah.
but-
So we're not getting taxes out of them, but they maintain
But you
them.
own a pool that's going to cost, $15,000 to fix, and if it goes worse, it's going to cost more. I'm not suggesting that there's.
I
I
mean-
think that it allowed you to upgrade your the fitness facility without.
And I understand having a number. I do. I'm looking
Oh,
at
that one is a.
the CATV equipment. Is that so somebody can watch us out in the world? Because nobody can see us on this equipment we've got now. But we've got $26,000 sitting here. Why can't we get the cable television fixed so people can watch this? I guess I'm trying to figure out.
Well, part of the reason they can't see us is where our channel is now located on the Spectrum channel.
And I'm just being facetious.
No, but
now.
I do understand. We do need new.
Well,
equipment.
here's a good example. But I was, when you said downtown improvement, what goes into that, as I drove by after our last meeting, looked at the rock wall that you were talking about down there. I mean, that's one that I think needs to be done sooner than later, and then I went up and looked at the Bangor Savings wall that they're building, and, you know, that's an expense, and you said those things are expensive, but is that something where some of this could be pulled in to do that?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, we're talking about a
Later.
sign out to the park, you know, and we're getting numbers from that, but yet we're sitting here on $1.5 million that we're never gonna throw it to this building here now. You know, I'm just looking at these things and wondering, and I appreciate what you guys did in the years past and throwing all the money there, but we're not at a point where we can just put, you know, a bunch of money in a fund just for the sake of having money in a fund, like
Well, what I'd be happy to do is take this list and highlight things I think you could, that you're not, I don't know what you'd.
maybe something we haven't spent any money in 4 or 5 years, just to, you know, it's sitting there earning
There's some
interest.
things I don't even know what you'd ever spend them on.
Me too. That's what I'm trying to figure
Well,
out.
again, going back to you mentioned the recreation, the amount, and the splash pad, and, you know, we talked about money. Were we talking about that money as raised revenue to pay for that splash pad, or were we gonna take that from
Raise
reserves?
revenue and a match is what you talked about the other night, contributing some, but having the community raise some of that.
Yeah, which is good, but, I mean, why wouldn't we use some
Well,
reserve
yeah.
money toward that?
Right.
I didn't realize we had that much money in the reserve.
You used to do a really interesting thing with revenue. If you raised more in recreational revenue than you budgeted,
You put it in a pocket, right?
you
someplace?
put it in a reserve, even though you were raising money for taxes to pay for, if your revenue.
We have to get away from that, and I know we are.
Well,
but
we don't do that,
But
but
this
I didn't even
this one here,
understand how you.
to me, I'm embarrassed to show what we have out there to the folks that we're asking to put in money, and they see this, and maybe nobody said anything because we were flush for years. But when I look at this now, I'm thinking, man, we've got to do something.
Well,
If we have things to spend it on, let's spend this.
What this allows you to do is do public works equipment replacement and all those kind of things without making your mill rate do this. And communities that don't have sufficient reserves, this is what their mill rate does. Every time they have to.
And I am asking the question. Maybe this is right. To me, it doesn't.
There's things on here that are.
Yeah.
Well,
It needs. You can.
in defense of the rec situation, their money was put away in hopes of someday building a new rec center. You know, but they were talking at the time, you know, like
$3 million building.
yeah, $2 or $3 million, and hoping to get a grant, and this would be the matching money for that grant. Well, you know, I don't think that's in the cards right now.
No, I think, but because the town is looking at a different model for how it deals with recreation, and that has the town purchasing services instead of creating infrastructure
Right.
on its own. But I'll be happy to go through this list and highlight the ones that I don't think that we have.
I got one, it's not much, but you might want to transfer it somewhere else. It's a Willow House Reserve. The Willow House has been gone for years. That's basically where the hockey rink is.
I didn't create it. That's one of them.
It's not-
I'd be happy to say I don't know what we're doing with
It's
it.
not much money, but, you know, maybe we can put that into some other account.
The hockey rink.
Right. I mean, you take that and you take the chamber building, it's $6,000, and,
Yeah.
you know, nickel dime here, and, you know, maybe we can get some of these other projects taken care of that.
Absolutely.
But I would be in favor, going back to the rock wall, I would be in favor of doing, if we could do that. That looks really good, and it looks like it would hold really well. If you get a chance, and you haven't been up there.
I have been up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this that new stuff they're talking about?
Yeah, it's an interlocking.
Oh, up to
thing.
Bangor, that one they're putting in up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the waterfront.
If you drive by there,
It's pretty heavy duty.
yeah.
Pool house and storage, and again, I'm looking, pool house and storage for $50,000, is that for the pool house that's up there now, to keep that up to date? But we also budget for some of that, too. Okay.
I think that's in case, you know, the filter system goes to hell. But,
It's a big filter.
yeah.
And the one thing that I've heard from town councilors and other towns that I know, and just people in the public have said, boy, Bucksport really did it well over all the years. You were prepared for I don't know if that's these reserves or there are other reserves we have, but, on one hand, we did a really
And you're
good
absolutely right. I
job.
mean, it was pretty nice 3 years ago to be able
Yeah.
to take $2 million and say, let's help the folks out here. That was, like, kudos for that, but
But there's a
$6
lot.
million for a recreation account? Come on, man.
Ain't 6 million.
No, it was a planning like this for what happens if you lose a big, and that's what all of this was driven by. The idea that you had one large taxpayer that was, because you did this and still had very manageable mill rates. You weren't,
Right.
the sticker shock when you raised your mill rate $3 to $17 for a full-service community in most places would be thrilled to have a $17 mill rate because they're in the 20s somewhere. But we've brought that back down to 1640, which is comparable for attracting outside investment. But I wasn't making fun. But
But if there is some way to kind of maybe put these together and to see what we don't
But just
use.
highlight the like Willow House. If it doesn't exist anymore, probably the reserve for it's not necessary. But and some of these, I don't know if you need a Route 46 highway improvements one, since you did that project in conjunction with the state, and that's already.
Now, could we transfer that into the possibility of utilizing that money on the Broadway extension?
But yeah, there's no
There's
rule.
almost $500,000 in highway improvement money. Now, you don't want to spend that down to zero in a minute, but that Broadway extension project will be.
Are there rules that these things are set in place that we can't?
You can change the rules. You're elected, and you will. It requires that if you want to change this, that you vote to abandon X reserve for Y purpose because of,
Yep.
if the project's completed, that whatever no longer exists, it creates a record for that, and then you can redistribute the money.
Okay.
Because none of this is outside money.
What about if you said, okay, we don't need as much in the recreation fund, but we need more in a police capital fund? Can you take some out of that and transfer it to the police with a action of the council?
You put it there, you can take it out.
Okay.
These are all under the control of the council.
Any other questions?
Yes, ambulance?
Yeah, that was my question. So we're going in the hole in the ambulance one. Where's that extra cash coming
Well,
from the rec fund?
My request for that is to take some of the money from the excess foreclosure funds for the properties that you sold and transfer that into this as well, a non-budgetary appropriation, but to use some of that additional. You, on a couple of properties, have sufficient to cover that without adding more. And again, it's like putting the chamber money into downtown improvements is using some of the foreclosure money for the ambulance is reasonable. Rather than just slide it back into fund balance, which is otherwise what would happen.
So yeah, this downtown improvements has got 24, and we're adding 58 to it. So we're talking a fairly good chunk of change that we could maybe.
But take a look. We could make a dent in it, and there's a few other accounts here that might be able to contribute to that.
Do each of these someplace, and I apologize that I don't know, do each of these have like downtown improvements, is there a specification of what that actually is, or what it's supposed to be used for, or when that was created, do we know? Anywhere? Does it live? Nothing you've seen?
I've not seen that.
So, I mean, these things are named, but there's really no rule, or there's no...
Well, they were at some point created by the council. that's the legal way to do them.
Yeah.
Is at some point you create a reserve for the purpose of X. And my assumption is that that's what happened with all of these. They didn't just get put on the sheet and money put into them. Which is why if you decide to eliminate some of them and redistribute them, that we will go through the formal process of abandonment. So there's a record that the town has of when you said that the Willow House Reserve is no longer pertinent because the Willow House is no longer in existence and the funds in it will be transferred to X.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it would
we no longer own the Gardner School either, do we?
No, Gardner Commons, yeah, they
Oh.
own
That's $156.
Spend wisely, young grasshopper.
You know, going back to the drug forfeiture reserve is really, it doesn't really make sense to have a reserve for drug
Something that-
forfeitures. So you could
It's
almost-
the
it's just
reason
a
that you
place to
do
put
is
it,
to
I know.
get the money out of the general fund so that it doesn't, out of the regular income stream, so it doesn't lapse at year end. It's kept for the use of the police department. That's,
I mean, I was just, like we
yeah,
said,
no,
it could go into
that's
the,
primarily
into the
why
reserve of the
it's
police
set
department.
aside that way.
Non-budget item.
Bear with me, one last question back on the ambulance thing again. Something just isn't clicking in my head yet, but we have all these revenues that come in on the ambulance, and I thought we were putting a sizable puddle of money aside for the purchase of a new ambulance. Then why are we still looking for $130,000?
We're not looking for $130,000, that's how much we're gonna spend. We're gonna be,
Really?
well, we're gonna,
I'm not, it seems awfully low. I would think it would be like another $50,000 for a new medium-duty four-wheel drive ambulance. It seems low.
it may be.
Oh, okay.
And so the amount necessary to add from outside may be higher. But there were some years where nothing got put into the ambulance
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
reserve. And I would rather use some of those additional revenues rather than all appropriation in this year.
Okay.
Just for,
No,
so
you
that we
answered-
don't.
It just looked really, really low to me, and you answered that question.
It may be.
so.
I haven't seen a number yet on what that is, but it all depends on make, model, et cetera, et cetera.
When was the last time we bought an ambulance? I thought it was just a
2
year
years
or two
ago.
ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't 2 years ago. I was here 2 years ago. You didn't buy an ambulance 3 years ago? 15.
It was 15, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we had quite a discussion about cup holders.
Yeah, it was, that's right.
Oh, that was before my time, yeah, so it's gotta be 2+ years ago.
yeah, that was before, I remember
Yeah,
reading.
was it?
I think that was when Derek was here, I believe.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Was there a question up back? I saw somebody's hand up, or did you?
Nope.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, we ought to go on to item 7.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have motion and second for adjournment. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Good discussion, Pete. Oops, I pulled up the wrong one.
You shut it all down.
I've done it before.